everybody. Welcome to
the Macaw Podcast Universe.
The podcast that exists to prove people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals. And let's say maybe somehow you stumbled across this episode, or maybe you're a newer fan of our podcast and haven't checked out the extent of our backlog. Maybe you're kind of like, what's going on? I thought we were covering Star Wars. Why are we talking about Jurassic World Dominion? Well, when we have a new release of a series we've covered, we cover it the following week, my dear boy.
Mm-hmm.
And so this week we had to go back to the depths, the pool, the park,
The Dominion,
the world. That is Jurassic World. So here we are. We saw the movie.
Jurassic World Dominion.
Yes, and now we are going to talk about it. And again, if you're newer, we like to keep the first parts of these pretty spoiler-free.
I got a question right off the top.
But then there will be a spoiler alert, and we'll get fully into the plot. Okay, what do you got?
Does the title make any sense to you? I thought it was Jurassic World, Dominion, but it's not. It's just Jurassic World Dominion.
Oh, because the last movie was Jurassic World,
Not
Fallen
on IMDb.
Kingdom. Oh, no, it's just Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom?
Oh, no, I'm saying this is just Jurassic World Dominion, no colons.
What about Fallen Kingdom? Can you look that up? Because, yeah, I think as a trilogy of its own, it should have a bit of...
Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, that's dumb. I thought it had a colon in it.
I think they forgot. I think they just got real tired by the end and forgot to slap it on.
Yeah, so as you may be sensing, this is not a good movie.
Did we think it was going to be a good movie? You were hopeful.
No. No, I was not.
You were, Micah.
I was not.
You were, no, don't give me that. You were hopeful. When the first trailer came out, when did it come out? Like during some big sports thing? Oh, was it the Super Bowl or something?
Probably, yeah.
You were excited.
No, you're misremembering, though.
I am not misremembering anything.
Can I clarify here?
Fine, save your pride.
No.
I'm not saying that you were head over heels excited. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
But you were looking forward to it.
That makes more sense. Because I remember watching the trailer and telling you and other people like that I was excited for the dinosaurs, but I already know that I don't like these characters and the story will suck.
Yes.
I said that right off the bat. I was like,
but
it's going to be a terrible movie.
It looks like they're really going to use the old cast. I'm kind of think that this one can be okay.
Okay.
Not good. Okay.
I don't remember saying that detail, but that makes sense. Yeah. Well, I mean, by the time it was coming out, I knew it was going to be a disaster.
Well, before we saw it, you knew what it was already rated at. So.
Yeah, this movie has like the lowest critic scoring of any of the Jurassic Park movies. And, you know, something, I went back and I was listening to our Jurassic World episodes, both 1 and 2 Jurassic Worlds. And, you know, we really talked about how the whole point of Jurassic Park is like, here's this science experiment. It went wrong. It doesn't work. Man should not play God. That's like the thesis of the movie. So every time you go back, it doesn't really work because you have to like undo what the first movie did and what it establishes. So none of the sequels are really good.
Mm-hmm.
The Lost World to me is the closest one to a good movie, and that's because it's got the Spielberg touch, not because it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the last third of that movie is
and that one's
awful.
like a survival story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These ones
You're thinking of Jurassic 3, I think. That one's more survival.
I kind of like that one.
You liked more. When I listened to our rankings, you put that one at number 2.
Yeah. Because that's, to me, all it should be. Because like you just said, the first one is this big moral quandary, but it's also half of a just let's not get eaten by dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And pretty much ever since then, it's just this big moral dilemma. And it's like, I don't care about your moral dilemmas. I just want to see you run from dinosaurs.
Yeah. Well, I care about the moral dilemmas, but they can't be as fabricated and stupid as they are in these movies.
Yeah.
In this one in particular. Now, my headline about this movie and what cracks me up. If you recall, listener, Fallen Kingdom ends and the dinosaurs are out. And I remember thinking, okay, I hate Fallen Kingdom, but I just remember thinking, this is a little bit exciting because this is the first time the status quo of Jurassic World, the Jurassic Kingdom, has been changed because they're out. And so you have something where you do have a chance to make the first like unique Jurassic Park sequel because you have the chance to just go, how would that relationship with man work?
Yeah.
Because they failed with the park safety and all that stuff. They got out. What are you going to do? What is hilarious, it's the funniest thing in the world to me, is that Colin Trevorrow says, okay, I set this up. I've been the producer on this series. I helped write the second movie, so I put it in this position. And he goes, instead of telling that story, I'm going to tell a story about locusts attacking crop and losing the potential food supply. Mind you, it's not even like a commentary on birds and birds' relation to dinosaurs. Insects don't have a relationship to dinosaurs. So he didn't even choose like lizards or something.
I know.
It's the wildest choice of a story anyone could ever have made.
I know. I agree.
It is
pretty lame because it is
so
like,
funny. It's so funny.
Why are we focusing on them when, like you said, there are dinosaurs here now? They are disrupting the entire ecosystem of the world. Just pick one dinosaur and explore that one ecosystem.
Yeah.
Instead of a bug.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I suppose there could be some I just thought of this, is this whole thing started because of finding dinosaur DNA in a little mosquito. So maybe they were thinking about that. But still,
not good enough.
Jurassic Park isn't about the mosquito. It's about what they do with it. And this is it's literally about the locust. And it is, I mean, the plot to this movie is one of the worst plots to a movie I've seen.
It really is. And I'm already just tired thinking about it.
But you liked this a lot more than I did. You're making it sound like I liked it more than you by your reaction.
But I also didn't care. I had no expectations going into it. Therefore, I didn't even try to understand what was happening.
Yeah. I tried to understand what was happening and couldn't follow it.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing. Sci-fi is one of the best genres. That's a total opinion. But it is an opinion I hold preferentially. It's just one of my favorites. That's what I meant.
Yep.
I meant to say sci-fi is one of my favorite genres.
Yep.
Sci-fi done poorly is worse than most genres done poorly.
Yeah.
Bad romance, whatever. Also, it's a Lady Gaga song. But a bad thriller, you can still have fun, but like a bad sci-fi is pretty insufferable.
Yeah.
And all three of the Jurassic World movies have been like really bad sci-fi. Jurassic World is the closest to anything, but it's too caught up in its own nostalgia. And I think, so we've seen this movie, we've seen Jurassic World. Have we seen any other Colin Trevorrow movies?
I don't think I have. No.
Okay. But I think it's pretty safe to assume the guy's not a good writer or director.
No. The guy, I don't think he knows how to make a movie, even though he technically has made a couple at this point. But I don't think he actually knows how. And then I don't think he thinks anyone's smart.
Yes. Okay. We were talking about this. You got to dive further into that.
I just think that he thinks everyone's stupid who watches his movies or movies in general. Therefore, there's not even like an attempt to make things coherent or just enjoyable. This movie, like, I didn't hate it as much as Fallen Kingdom, I think, because I think there's more fun dinosaur stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
And there's like a fair amount too. So that worked for me. Most of the dinosaur stuff, like, it all looked pretty dang good to me.
I know. So, yeah, that was the thing. There was a ton of dinosaurs and a ton of new dinosaurs we've never seen. There are dinosaurs with feathers all over them. Those are cool. There's old dinosaurs, new. And that stuff I was really liking. And I was like, I was thinking, am I just being too uppity about this? But I mean, I'm also remembering in the back of my head that already the movie's only been out for like a day and people have rejected it. So, we're certainly not alone in this opinion. But then I'm thinking, like, No, because there's monster movies, and I haven't seen a lot of monster movies, but I do like some of those.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like 2014's Godzilla. I like the original Godzilla. I like Godzilla versus Kong.
Sounds like you just like Godzilla.
Well, but what I mean to say is, like, I like Kong Skull Island. You know, those stories are, you can get cheesy. You can have the one-liners. You can
because they started cheesy from the beginning. Those were campy and fun. Jurassic World, when that movie came out, people had never seen this before.
Right.
Like these dinosaurs in physical, tangible, real life, which is fun, but it's still campy.
Yeah. It's interesting. But I do think, like you're saying, this is a terrible, terrible movie. It's so bad. It's not as bad as Secrets of Dumbledore because I wasn't really bored.
No, me neither.
And I will say, maybe our Fast and Furious fans can understand this. When I watch Fast and Furious, I see cars everywhere I look in life. So seeing a bad movie with bad car action that isn't very interesting, I'm not really able to overlook much.
Yeah.
But seeing a bad movie that has dinosaurs that fight in it, I'm like, at the end of the day, I did see a dinosaur breathe fire. So am I really that upset I spent money on the movie? No.
Yeah.
But as a Jurassic Park fan, it's just truly, I mean, this is the series that really no sequel will ever be able to be as good as the first movie.
Yeah.
If they make 30 more, if Paul Thomas Anderson is like, I'm going to make the next Jurassic Park movie, it's still not going to be good compared to Jurassic Park.
Wow.
It's just not
really
possible.
Don't believe in PTA.
Well, he would never concern himself with such matters.
No, he wouldn't.
Because he knows.
Before we get into the movie, though, really, we got to talk about the theater experience.
Yes.
Because it was probably the craziest one I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
And it was the first and probably only time that I didn't care about any of it. It added to my enjoyment of the movie.
Yeah. So school came out like...
No, school let out.
Let out.
It's summer break. We saw this movie at 3:30 on a Friday. We now know not to go see a movie at 3:30 on a Friday. Pretty much, I would say, any time of the year.
Yeah.
Especially not the first weekend of summer break.
Yeah.
Because the theater was full with kids. I will add something, though. I love seeing, like, Pixar movies with a bunch of kids in the theater.
Well, and we're probably
those movies are good, and therefore they hold kids' attention. This movie was like parents left and right,
yelling,
like, reprimanding
at their kids.
children because they were probably bored out of their wits about this movie.
Clapping at their kids.
Yeah.
Hey!
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. So there's like, I want to say like three families all got together.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was like 10 to 15 kids between them. But it was like the parents all sat together and they kind of like let the kids sit in their own rows. Yeah. So there was a lot of kids in front of us. And just throughout the movie, one mom would get up and yell at a kid. And then a couple minutes later, another mom would get up and like clap at the kids to shut up.
Yeah.
And then the mom sitting next to me, just texting the whole time. Her ringer was on for part of it.
Not even low brightness texting.
Not
she was
low
full
brightness. And she wasn't even trying to hide it.
And again, I want to say, if you're a listener of this podcast, we implore you never text in the movies.
No.
It's rude. Other people spend money to go see them. Don't do it.
Yes. And then they're just having full-on conversations and laughing during this movie.
Yeah.
So it's what made it not as bad to me as it usually would be is I didn't care about this movie and I was kind of having more fun experiencing this craziness happening during it. And now you have to talk about the funniest thing I've ever seen a person do in a movie sitting next to you.
Well, before I talk about that, I will say is I underestimated the fact that kids automatically love dinosaurs. And so like kids that are really young are going to this movie.
Yeah. Like a toddler laying on his, like cuddling with his mom, sitting next to Micah the whole movie, and throughout the movie being like, Mama?
Where's the dinosaur? Which is
he
that?
Was really cute. I do have to say.
He was cute.
But wait, sorry. Well, I'll let you go. I looked over kind of at the beginning of the movie because I think I heard someone say Mama, and I look over and I see this toddler laying on his mom, and I just looked at Micah. My eyes were so wide, and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah. It was total anarchy.
Yeah.
But no, what was crazy was this woman is sitting next to me, and then she has a seat for her toddler, and then the toddler crawls over the seat to her, and he is like sometimes getting a little too close and almost getting like to the armrest.
Oh, of you? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. He didn't quite cross the boundary, but he was close. And there was part of me that was like, why is this mom just not taking the other seat she bought and scooting over?
Was there no one sitting next to the other seat?
Well, I can't remember.
Yeah.
So maybe there was, and maybe that's why. But she had...
a peace tea.
Peace tea. So, those are like 24 ounces.
It's huge. I thought when like the lady sat down, because I hadn't seen the kid yet, I thought it was just like a giant beer. And I was like, great, Top Gun again. People bringing in giant beers and drinking that during the movie.
Which, side note, folks, if you're going to spend money on one blockbuster, Jurassic World or Top Gun, go see Top Gun. It's a masterpiece. And if you're like, but I already saw Top Gun twice, and I was thinking about seeing Jurassic World, go see Top Gun a third time. Because I did legitimately have this thought. Halfway through this movie, I was like, I could be watching Top Gun.
Yeah.
I could be watching Tom soaring through the sky. So good. But so there's this toddler, and he's like sitting almost on the chair rest part of
the feet rest?
The footrest, yeah, part of the seat. And he grabs the can. And, the can is
the kid's like 3 or 4.
It's like the size of his head, basically.
It's like half as long as he is.
Yeah, and the mom's just, I guess, looking to the side or something because she's not noticing. He is just downing this drink.
Slurping it.
And he's drinking it in such gulps that it's like...
funny as you're imagining it in your head.
Yeah, it was like cartoonish. And he's drinking it like it's a baby bottle. And he's just sucking it down. And then the mom finally like he does that for a while, and then Jordan turns and starts watching him, and you reacted, and I'm like, he's going for drink 2 right now. You're seeing drink 2.
This is what it sounded like.
Okay, here we go.
That's what it was sounding like.
Just constantly, over and over and over. And then his mom makes him put it down, and then he grabs it again. And
he drank for a long time. That kid had to pee.
And he has to pick it up with both hands because his hands are so small. And he's just downing this drink. And each time I was like, he's totally going to spill this all over me somehow. Yeah. But he didn't.
Oh my gosh. I was crying with laughter during it. Oh my gosh. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
It was so silly.
Yeah.
So that was our theater experience.
Yeah.
I mean, terrible theater experience. But
if it was like a movie I was excited for, even if it was podcast related, I probably would have left and gotten another Showtime refund.
Yeah. Yeah, I did think about that, but I was like, this movie's so bad, I don't care.
Yeah, no, and I was kind of loving it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it was like a Marvel movie, I probably would be like, can you give me like a 12 a.m. showing?
Yeah.
Like just a crazy... PM. Oh, no, I mean like a really late night showing where there's going to be no kids or something.
Yeah. But one thing I want to point out is you said, so next week on our schedule, so next week for the podcast, we'll be covering Lightyear because that movie comes out. And I just want you to potentially, you will be eating your words because we will probably come back to the podcast and be like, guys, here's the terrible theater experience we had for Lightyear. Because you did say I like seeing Pixar movies with kids. So I'm just putting a mark on the podcast that we will see if that is the case next week.
Yeah, every Pixar movie that I've seen in theaters and kids are there, I've never have a complaint.
I haven't either.
I've never complained about it.
I haven't either.
Because it is so adorable. This movie seems very strange.
Yeah.
This Lightyear movie. So I could see it being a potential disaster for children.
Yeah.
But it still looks really fun. So
I could see kids being like yelling out like, "Where's Woody?"
Yeah.
Huh?
But also I gotta love that.
Hearing a kid go, "Mom, I'm having trouble pontificating how this is possible that he is a real life character inside the universe of..." Anyway, we'll talk about it next week. Hopefully we'll all be surprised and it'll be a trick and it will actually be Andy's imagination or Bonnie's imagination as the movie. Again, I'm trying to call that early. If that is the case, they're pulling a Lego movie and that would be awesome. So, one thing before we get more into Jurassic World that I wanted to talk to you about. not when we started this podcast, but I think when we were doing Insidious, we were talking about horror.
Yeah.
And how horror oftentimes reflects the times in which it's created. So it can be like the fears of that generation, or et cetera, et cetera. And during that time, we said, I wonder what the fears of COVID and living through COVID, how that will manifest itself into horror. And I feel like we've started to see that.
Why?
That manifestation of what COVID fear and put into horror and written into things is. Because we went and saw a movie called Men.
Yeah.
Which is very strange, and I'm not necessarily recommending it because it has one of the most graphic, intense endings I'd seen, and I actually put my hat over my eyes and didn't watch the end of the movie because it was really gross. But in that movie, first of all, it's made in a COVID production.
Yeah.
There's like 3 people in the whole cast of the movie.
Yeah.
One person plays like 10 other characters. And there was this overwhelming sense that I had as the movie was beginning of this fear of loneliness and being alone. And I think, and paranoia and being alone. Beyond being alone of just like, I'm alone in my room, but like maybe no one's out there for me. And then I watched a movie that was also made in COVID that is not a horror movie, but it's called Kimmy by Steven Soderbergh. And it's a thriller. And COVID's actually in the movie and stuff like that. It's a part of the movie. But there's this elevated sense of paranoia. And it clicked on both those movies where I'm like, we are seeing the repercussions of writers writing, at the very least, with COVID fears in their own minds. And this paranoia of like, who can I trust? Who may or may not have the virus? Can I be around these people? I don't know. And then this fear of complete isolation.
There's this
that's just what I was thinking about.
Interesting book that I would like to read, but my reading list is really long, called 56 Days. And it's about the start of COVID and this couple. Well, this couple meets like right before COVID happens, like this man and this woman. And then COVID, like lockdown happens, and they're like, well, we seem to really click. Let's just try quarantining together for a little bit. And then one of them is found dead.
Did they get murdered by the other?
I think so.
Did this happen in real life?
No, this is a book.
Oh.
I mean, maybe that happened in real life. Who knows?
Well, that's a great story because I am like in either way.
I know, it sounds really good. I need to read it. It's by Catherine Ryan Howard for anyone who wants to read it.
Okay. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but I just wanted to update listeners. I've been thinking about that. And that's
so good for you, Micah. I'm so happy for you.
Well, thanks for making fun of me.
No, I just haven't really thought about that.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think of Men that way, but I see what you mean.
Yeah. That was just like a experience I had watching that movie. But I think this is a great transition back into Jurassic World. And this is kind of interesting because it's going to make you think of something. So, folks, I'm excited to go over the notes. It's mostly just quotes from Colin Trevorrow and how he's crazy and shouldn't be allowed to direct anymore. But this first one is not about that. So this movie began filming like right before quarantine started in March of 2020.
Whoa. Okay.
And so I am going to just I'm going to read this section from Wikipedia, just verbatim, and I'm going to see what it makes you think about. But for those who are listening, I tried to fact check this Wikipedia thing, but New York Times said I had looked at too many articles this month. So I said, I'm just going to assume this is true. So it was filming resumed in July 6th of 2020 after a hiatus. An entire hotel in England was rented out by
the bubble already. Yeah. Okay.
By Universal for the remainder of the shoot, allowing the cast and crew.
Wait a second. It is literally that movie.
Yeah.
Because it's dinosaurs.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, keep going.
Allowing the cast crew to quarantine there for 2 weeks before resuming filming. After quarantine, they were allowed to freely roam without doing any COVID stuff. The hotel provided a protective, quote, bubble for the cast and crew. Trevorrow encouraged the that yada, yada, yada. Safety measures were approximately $9 million. yada, yada, yada. But that is literally... So Judd Apatow must have heard about that and decided to write The Bubble.
100%.
The Bubble being the worst movie that's been released this year,
It's
maybe?
pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
And by far, Judd Apatow's worst movie.
Yeah, it's just also not very funny.
Well,
unfortunately.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's because Judd Apatow makes movies that are pretty long. They're always really long, but make it really long and not funny. Yikes. Anyway, so that's that. The movie is directed by Colin Trevorrow. The screenplay is by Trevorrow and Emily Carmichael. And Emily Carmichael has done a famous sequel that no one likes called Pacific Rim Uprising. Seeing a pattern here. And then the story is by Colin and Derek Connolly, who is his writing partner. The cinematography is by John Schwartzman, and he did 50 Shades Free, 50 Shades Darker, Dracula Untold, Jurassic World, etc.
Okay.
He has done some movies that looked good, but I kind of wanted to...
I don't think this movie looked completely awful. I actually thought it looked pretty good.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it looks fine.
Like, the action dinosaur stuff was cool.
Yeah. I just don't think it was, like, stellar in any sort of way.
I thought some of it was pretty dang good, actually. Like, when Bryce Dallas Howard went out of the plane and she was falling through the sky, looked pretty good.
Yeah.
And then that whole sequence, and then when she's in the tree with the dinosaur, that whole part looked really good, and there was some nice tension there. We all know no one's gonna die. That's part of the issue with these movies at this point.
Be careful about spoilers. We're not in the spoiler-free zone yet.
Okay, but
so maybe people die, folks.
Yeah. But yeah, so some of how some dinosaurs were revealed, I thought it was pretty good.
You know what? You're right. I will concede my point. I think it's maybe an editing issue that I'm sensing.
Sure.
That I will... Well, I can talk about it now. This movie has no tension at all. Mm-hmm. Every single scene, except for the Bryce Dallas Howard in the pool, which is in the trailer, like where she goes underwater and there's a dinosaur. That was the only scene that had any tension in it. The rest of them are cut so fast that there's not enough time to, like, think something scary. Because it just is like, boom, 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 boom. Okay, next scene. That's why it reminded me more of, like, a Godzilla movie or something. Because it's like, this isn't scary. It's just big things punching stuff. There's no tension at all. And again, when you're talking about the Jurassic Park franchise, where the T-Rex... to me, is the scariest thing ever filmed. This is not even close.
Yep.
So, the music is by Michael Giacchino, who I'm really starting to sour on.
Well, unless it is a Pixar thing, is what you were starting to think about.
Yeah, because I thought the score of this movie was really bad. Like, during the movie, I was like, what is this person doing? And then there was...
You got to remember, too, though. I mean, he's got a lot of duds. I will give you that.
Yeah.
It's a terrible director.
Well, yeah.
Like he whatever he is, he can't do his job.
Yeah.
Well.
He's just had a lot of duds in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But I do kind of like...
recently had a really good one, though. I'm going to look it up.
Well, the Spider-Man scores are fun. They're just nowhere close to the Danny Elfman scores. But they're pretty decent, actually. But you're not thinking of the Batman, right? Because he did do that.
He did do that, but oh no, I'm probably just thinking about that, which is doesn't really fall under that.
Yeah, it's a good score. It's just repetitive and it rips off another score.
And it's mostly Nirvana.
Yeah, it's either playing the chord progression to Nirvana / the Imperial March, or it's playing the Nirvana song. So it's like, I just hope that the next Batman movie, and folks, for the record, we have a Patreon episode on the Batman. I love that movie. But I just hope that the next movie is not like every scene the Batman walks in and goes, dun, 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 dun. Because it's like, I can only hear that so many times. Anyway, here we go. Movie comes out June 10th, 2022. It has a $185 million budget. You want to hit any actors before I get into Colin's crazy quotes?
I'm just realizing there might be two actors, because I don't think this other guy was in the last movie, but DeWanda Wise plays Kayla Watts. She is the pilot. She is also in Fatherhood. Fatherhood, She's Gotta Have It, which is a show based on the Spike Lee.
Movie. She got game, or she's got to have it,
Something like that. But yeah, it's based on that Spike Lee thing. She's in an episode of The Twilight Zone. I don't know which one.
Okay.
Because I just don't feel like going further into it. And I know that's not great. But she's in one of the newer... And I feel... Because she seems familiar, and I feel like we would have seen her.
She might have been in that space one.
Well, actually, let's just... Hold on a second. Let's hold on. Oh, yeah, I don't think you can search that.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, she is in the space one.
Okay, so we had seen her.
What is that one?
I don't remember.
A space crew preparing for the first human flight to Mars. I don't think we even got to that one.
What episode number is it?
6.
Oh, no, we didn't.
Oh, no, that was the next one. We got to the Wonderkin and did not continue.
Yeah.
She's also in Shots Fired, Someone Great, and she's been in a lot of stuff, actually.
Okay.
And then let's see. His name was Mamoudou Athie in the last movie, who plays Ramsey. I want to say no.
Ramsey. Is that his friend?
No,
Owen's
that's like
friend?
the top. It's like the Jeff Bezos right-hand man guy.
Oh, he was not in the last movie.
Okay, so that guy is also in The Circle. He is in Black Box, Underwater, The Get Down. But what have I seen him in? You know? He's in something that we've seen him in that he's really good in. He's in Cake, Watch Room, Unicorn Store. He's the guy in Unicorn Store.
Unicorn
Brie
Store.
Larson.
That's Horse Girl.
Nope, that's Allison Brie.
Oh, Brie Larson.
Unicorn Store, the movie she directed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
So that's it.
Okay. So, speaking of cast members, I thought that him, who you just said, and what was his name again? His actual name?
Mamoudou Athie.
Mamoudou Athie. He was really good.
He was great, but again, I'm going to blame this on directing. There's a lot of things actors do in this movie that I just don't think they weren't given the correct direction on what to do, because it did not make sense what they were doing.
And the editing was so weird in this movie.
It was so bad.
Because there was a lot of times where the camera, for a movie that's so like ADHD and jumps around so much, it would have scenes where a character like him is standing there, and it's almost like they left in the part where someone says like,
yeah,
sound?
Yeah.
Background action? Action.
Yeah.
So there's like 3 seconds of him standing there before he walks up to him computer.
Yep.
And then he's instructed to be like, oh, okay. For an intense situation. It was like that scene I'm talking about. It was as if they told him it was a different scene. Mm-hmm. And then they just edited it in later.
100%.
Very weird. And we haven't even talked about the Bezos guy.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that when we get there.
I am convinced that he didn't know that he was in a Jurassic Park movie. It was weird. It was weird.
It was one of the weirdest performances because he...
Oh, wait, I should cover him because we haven't...
Yeah. So this guy...
Sorry, I guess there's more actors than I thought. Campbell Scott plays Lewis Dodgson. He is in Big Night, Roger Dodger, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and 1.
I don't remember.
2. Singles. If it's 2, then I haven't seen him in that. But yeah, House of Cards as well. He's in a lot of stuff. He's in a lot of TV.
So what's funny about him, he's this character who is like I guess for lack of a better term.
He's the head of Biosyn.
He's the head of Biosyn. And his character in this movie he's like this secretly evil guy. But I mean, right off the get-go, you know that about him. And he does things like this where he'll be like, all right, let's not open that fence, because if we open up that fence, then the people are going to get out and our secret will get out. And then like 2 minutes later, they'll be like, we really got to open that fence because we got to let those people out. We can't just let them die. And he goes, fine, open up the fence.
I know specifically what scene you're talking about too, but it's like he throws a fit. He's like like punching his fist in the air. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And then completely calms down and says, yeah, open it.
I know. But he does it, I think, 3 times in the movie where he's like, I'm not going to do this thing. And then he's like, All right, do the thing.
But it was crazy because like
it made no sense.
he was doing eccentric billionaire like a thing.
Yeah.
But it also felt like it also felt like he was like he had no social
It was like he was trying to show that he doesn't have like social skills.
social skills, that's what I'm thinking of. He has no social skills because it's like I'm this billionaire that's so out of touch with reality. I can't really like have a normal human conversation anymore, but I'm very soft spoken and I don't really even know what's happening. I just make money. It
did not equate at all.
Have we had anyone similar to the guy in the first movie?
John Hammond?
Yeah.
Not really.
I mean, for movies, these movies are all not good.
Yeah.
So this movie in particular was very much like, let's just continue to call back to the first movie.
Yeah.
Just throw in a guy like that.
Yeah.
At this point. Why you have this weird guy that I think walked on set, like he got the script and the script had whatever the false name was so that it doesn't leak to anybody.
Yeah.
And he actually thought it was not a Jurassic World movie. I really think that's what happened.
He probably went crazy in the bubble.
Yeah, he probably did.
So here's something that maybe you're listening this far, you haven't seen the movie, or you have, and you have some strong opinions about the old cast being brought in. Because this is the first time since Jurassic Park 1 that we have Jeff Goldblum, Laura Dern, and Sam Neill in the same movie. All three of them have been in other movies, but they haven't been together. And they've kind of billed this as like, they're back. We finally got them. This is the final chapter.
Are we going to do anything with them? Absolutely not.
But what I find weird and what I realize in the movie, and I'm hoping some of you are sitting there like, they didn't work for me and I don't know why. Well, here's why. I think. I'm comparing this to Force Awakens because we recently watched it for the podcast. In The Force Awakens, we get reintroduced to iconic characters that we know and love. In Jurassic Park, we have iconic characters that we know and love, but there's a huge difference between the two. Han Solo, Leia, and Luke Skywalker are like saviors of the galaxy and are larger-than-life characters. So seeing their return, beyond feeling nostalgia, feels both apt for the storytelling, and it also feels like they are big enough characters to still occupy that universe. In this, I realized, because I was a little bit excited to see them, I got to admit, and then I realized a half hour into the movie, I was like, oh, I guess I don't actually care about these characters beyond the first movie they're in. And the difference is they're normal people. They're normal people with jobs that like anyone can get if you study hard. They're not superheroes. It's not Captain America coming back to save the day. They don't have powers. They're normal people. And I'm glad that it's just normal people. So when I'm watching them, I'm like, oh yeah, of course they don't have anything to do because they've been through this. They've presumably heard about all this stuff on the news. They don't, like, they've washed their hands clean of this. It's not their problem.
Only one out of the three is funny.
Which one?
Jeff Goldblum.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Then you have the other two who are not funny characters. So they're just there.
Uh-huh.
Like they're existing.
It's very weird.
And then also, Chris Pratt, I couldn't even tell you what he did in this movie. I couldn't even tell you what he said in this movie. I feel like he had hardly any lines.
And you know what's sad? Him and Bryce Dallas Howard in blockbuster movies in the last decade have two of the worst characters I've seen.
Yeah.
Like, they're not interesting. They're not likable. They're not fun to watch in these movies. Both talented actors, but they're just not good fits for this. And this movie was the first time they didn't annoy me in this series.
I will agree with that.
And I was
she, I actually think, was trying the hardest. This might be crazy. I think she might have been trying the hardest out of all of them. Bryce Dallas Howard.
What do you mean by trying the hardest?
She was the most memorable one to me.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a smart move to make her more of like a mother figure than like sexy girl who runs a park and has an attitude. Because in the first movie, that's what she is. And then in the second movie, she's like, I'm sexy girl, but now I'm like eco-friendly. And then in this movie, it's like I want to help my adopted daughter. and she's like a mother.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's way better.
Yeah.
I can believe that more for this world you built.
Yeah.
Because the other characters, and again, like in the other two movies, her role just really felt like men wrote her role, where it's like, this is how we think women are like. And it's like, what are you talking about? Have you met one before? Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I agree with that.
I
think we said that on the episodes.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think the use of the legacy characters was so bad. And I think at the core of it, it's like there's no need for them to be in this story. Beyond it being a nostalgia grab. And by the way, the theater they reacted to one joke in this entire movie.
Yeah.
That was it. And there's a lot of jokes.
Yeah. Can we get through the production?
Yeah, so here are just some quotes from Colin Trevorrow about this movie. So here's one. I think this is one of those franchises like Mission Impossible and like what they're currently doing with Star Wars that is going to really benefit from new voices and new points of view. He said this in 2015. Down the line, looking at the way that franchises have been working, I'm pretty confident that this is the right answer for this. We need to keep it new and keep it changing and constantly let it evolve. As in, there should be new voices, new directors. We should keep this thing going.
Okay.
So that's a funny thing he said, comparing it to Mission Impossible and Star Wars.
Yeah.
Silly. Very stupid.
Yeah.
I forgot to give the context of he's talking about new directors. And this is in 2015. So I kind of botched that whole quote.
That's okay.
But we'll keep going.
Uh-huh. That's what you wanted.
Uh-huh. So here's the other thing he said about this movie. He said that this film is going to have a bit more of a spy feel to it. A la the Bourne movies and James Bond. Now, what's funny about that statement is there is a shot in this movie that is an identical shot from the Bourne Ultimatum.
What?
Where they are being chased through the rooftops. It's the girl who flies the plane.
Yep.
And a raptor is chasing her.
Nope, Bryce Dallas Howard.
Oh, it is Bryce Dallas Howard. You're right. And a raptor's chasing her. And when they were shooting the rooftops, I was like, this looks exactly like the Bourne Ultimatum. And then Bryce Dallas Howard jumps through into a window. Or no, she jumps over a roof, and then the Velociraptor jumps over an alley and through a window, and that shot is exactly the same as Bourne Ultimatum.
What?
And it was like, that was always in the trailers. It's kind of an iconic shot because it just looks great, and the camera follows over the jump. It's the third one.
Okay.
But the camera follows over the jump, and Jason Bourne like smashes the window as he jumps through, and the raptor smashes the window. It is the same shot.
Who wants to watch a movie filled with dinosaurs and wants it to be a spy movie? Not me. Unless the dinosaurs are investigating something and being spies, I don't want to watch it. What an idiot.
I know. And so if you remember, Colin finishes Jurassic World and he starts making this movie called Book of Henry.
Yep.
And he gets hired to make Star Wars Episode 9. Keep listening to our podcast. We're going to talk about it in detail. He writes the script and everything. The script is leaked. You can read it online, all of this. He gets fired. Well, he leaves the project of Episode 9, but we all know he got fired. I'm pretty sure. And J.J. Abrams makes Rise of Skywalker. Now, Rise of Skywalker, people consider a really bad Star Wars movie. We'll see what we think. I'm not going to say anything yet, but I can guarantee you after watching this, Colin's version of Episode 9 would have been a train wreck. And I know a lot of people consider Episode 9 a train wreck. It would be like a train wreck a la Attack of the Clones bad. So, setting that aside, he has this to say about his experience with Star Wars. What I appreciate about having worked on Star Wars is that I really got a practice run at making a new version of something we loved when we were kids and bringing it to a satisfying conclusion.
Nope. Didn't work. Didn't do it.
And then he said this about the movie. It's just, again, remember, this movie is about locusts and not about dinosaurs. And this is a long time ago, I think, when he made Jurassic World. Or no, when he was getting ready to make this third movie. He says, I have a dinosaur movie that I've always wanted to see, and it took 2 movies to earn it.
Man, I wish I could have seen that movie.
Well, yeah, I guess when he was a kid, he always dreamed about locusts destroying certain types of crops. And he consulted scientists for story ideas, seeking to depict a global ecological crisis which would be caused by genetic tampering and which would be noticed by a paleobotanist before anyone else. Trevorrow learned of Insect Allies, a program by DARPA in which insects spread pesticide to crops. This inspired the film's locust plot.
Oh, that's what that guy put in them, probably. Because we couldn't remember.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Well, I'm glad you read that, so now I get that now.
And then I got 2 more notes. I have confirmed that this movie has more animatronics than the past 2 movies, which looked. And every time there was an animatronic, I was like, this is kind of worth watching.
Oh, yeah, they were really good.
There is one scene in particular that I'm pretty sure there was no CG in, and it was the coolest looking scene in the movie. And then he said this. Now, this is... I remember in Fallen Kingdom, we talked about how they said, we want, just like The Empire Strikes Back and Godfather 2, we want to make a defining darker chapter. Because everyone says that stupid thing when they make a second movie.
Strikes Back darker?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Because Han Solo gets carbonite. It's darker.
Right.
But everyone says when they make a sequel, they go, we tried to make it like The Empire Strikes Back. And people need to stop saying that.
Yeah.
And stop trying to make that. But he said this about, there's a dinosaur in this movie called the Giganotosaurus, which is like one of the biggest dinosaurs
The biggest
ever.
carnivore the world has ever seen. I'm assuming it's that one that I think Sam Neill said.
That's the one. And he had this quote, and this is a real quote. I really did check this. I found the article where he said this in an interview.
This is before you used up your New York Times article limit.
Different site, luckily. He said, I wanted something that felt like the Joker.
Oh!
It just wants to watch the world burn.
It's a dinosaur. All it wants to do is eat.
It wants to watch the world burn, Jordan.
Gosh, this guy needs to...
He needs to not
have words.
make stories.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely is from that, that school of, I would be shocked if he's ever seen, a French movie. Or if he's even heard of Parasite. Or something, you know what I mean? It's like, this guy just knows nothing about movies, is the impression I get.
I bet he doesn't like movies.
I think he actively disdains them.
Yeah.
He saw Jurassic Park, and then he was like, that's it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seemed, I feel like I wouldn't want him on the podcast. If he asked to be on the podcast and be like, nah.
You wouldn't get anything out of it.
Yeah. So that is the notes for Jurassic World. Now we can get into the plot and talk some spoilers.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. 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 Spoiler alert.
So right off the bat, this movie is 2 hours
ready
and
to go.
26 minutes, and it should be 2 hours or less.
Mm-hmm.
What they need to do right off the top, they took way too long to establish characters and get the movie going. Because once we are introduced to the locusts, we are at least 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
And they kind of established some other issues that will play a part in the movie. But there's we don't have our MacGuffin yet.
Yeah.
And it's like we need something, some semblance of this is what's going to happen in this movie that will push events forward.
Uh-huh.
And it was just so boring. It took forever to reintroduce characters. And it's that we don't really care about Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt. So just get to the movie starts, they're at their cabin already with getting the clone girl in trouble for sneaking off again. That's it.
Yeah.
And then show it, or just show because Bryce Dallas Howard is infiltrating some breeding facility of dinosaurs and taking it down. Chris Pratt's wrangling dinosaurs, and they're both just way too long of scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
Cut them into a third of what they were.
Yeah. Well, what's really funny is the movie begins with a news report that's just catching us up. And it's just presented almost like a YouTube blogger Yeah. It just was a odd choice.
Yeah.
I don't understand when they shoot. This is such a nitpicky thing for movies, but when they shoot news footage, I don't understand why they don't hire like news crews to do it.
Whenever movies do, I like that way more.
Because, yeah, it's like everything looks way too pristine and like set. It's so weird because you're seeing like the chyron at the bottom and it's like, but that's movie footage, not
chyron.
You know, the thing that says like.
Oh, the scrolling thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're seeing that and you're seeing like the NASDAQ and stuff like that. But.
How do you know these words? Did you want to be an anchorman?
And the Dow Jones and whatnot. I used to watch the news a lot when I was a kid.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's just very weird because...
I'm sorry.
Do we need to restart the episode?
Who knows those words?
Chiron and NASDAQ and Dow Jones? That's stock market stuff.
Are all three of those?
No, just the NASDAQ and Dow Jones.
Yeah, I know Dow Jones.
Yeah. Those are like the two things
You're
where you can
weird.
tell the... But it's just funny. They should hire like news crews to do that and like their cameras and stuff because it always looks really out of place and strange.
Yeah, and they're all like this is supposed to be setting the tone for the movie too.
Right. So it's already like kind of a bad decision.
Yeah.
But it's so this kind of
this is how the movie could have started.
Yeah.
Well, I don't need to be caught up on how the state of the world is.
Yeah.
You can like remind us and like but just one idea is like it's a Biosyn commercial because we need to be introduced to them pretty quickly because they are like the big there's always a company in Jurassic Park. So like this is the company of this movie. Comment on how dinosaurs are out.
Yeah. Oh, can I cut you off for two things?
What?
I just because I keep forgetting them. Two things that are hilarious about this movie that I saw pointed out in like reviews. One of them is this movie totally overestimates how much anyone cares about Blue. Because they keep on just being like, we brought Blue back. Yeah. Remember Blue? And then he is trying to keep a promise that he never makes in the movie, which is weird.
But he does keep his promise.
I know, but there's never a scene where he's like, I promise I'm going to bring this thing back. He just says like, I made a promise to that dinosaur. And we're like, no, you didn't.
Yes, he did.
He did?
Yes, he promised her.
When did he promise her?
In that moment. He said, when she's at the truck and they're about to leave to chase after the girl, he says, I promise I will bring her back.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
The internet's wrong.
I missed that.
Okay.
But that was me who said that.
Okay.
But the Blue thing is so funny that
it's so funny.
Every episode of this series, they're like, Blue, it's Blue again. Don't care. And then the other thing that's hilarious is this is the first time in the series that there's a chance for dinosaurs to be outside of a designated area. And instead, they put them all in a designated area.
Well, they don't focus on the ones that aren't in one.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that until I read it, and I'm like, oh, that's so funny. Because it's always like, are they going to get past the perimeter?
They do, but that's not what this movie's about.
Yeah.
So the movie should have started off with some kind of like infomercial about Biosyn that kind of catches you up and reminds you that dinosaurs are out, but what is Biosyn doing to be a good company about it? And then it's like a cut to... the locust thing. Introduce that right off the bat. You have to do that.
No, cut the locust from the movie.
No, I'm saying if they need something like that, let's just say that they have. I mean, this is Trevorrow's baby, so we got to keep the locust in it.
Yeah, when he was a kid, he was imagining locusts in Jurassic Park.
Like there is a baseline template for blockbusters, and he needs to be following it. He can't be doing anything crazy and out of bounds. So you got to show.
He's not Ryan Johnson.
No. You got to show your inciting incident at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is the locust thing. And then you do a very quick reintroduction of your characters. And then also introducing the more important problem about the clone girl.
Yeah.
And then the movie happens. And it's like a tight 90 minutes.
Well, what they need, and a part of it is they set themselves up for failure, is you gotta cut the clone girl because it's a stupid plot and it sucks.
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know, make it about creating the nature preserve or something. And then finally, the biggest problem with this movie is, and there's a lot of problems, is the thesis of Jurassic Park is disproven in this movie. And it's the same series.
Yeah.
The whole thesis of Jurassic Park is man should not be God, and we cannot, like, bring these creatures back. And at the end of this movie, there's the whole like YouTube blogger who's like, and we've learned to coexist. And it's like, then what was the point of those 5 other movies that were made?
Mm-hmm.
It's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And so there should be a different point they're trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other main issue. And then what's also stupid is if this movie does make a lot of money, and it will, but I'm hoping that the second weekend has like a 80% drop or something, and then they are like, we can't make any more of these. If they want to make another one of these movies, they're going to have to do so much work to like be like, hey, it's 10 years later and we've captured all of the dinosaurs.
I think it would be a reboot. A reboot after the first movie.
Oh, are you talking like a la Terminator Dark Fate?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, you've said it here first.
Because it's a hot mess.
Yeah, there's no way to... the other thing they could do, but they wouldn't do, and I understand why, is if you introduce this clone, you make this movie not about dinosaurs, but about cloning humans.
Okay.
Because they never address the ethics of cloning a human. And this is a series that's about ethics.
She kind of wasn't cloned. That was a weird reveal.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really get it. I think they're trying to not make it weird.
And they made it so much weirder.
Yeah,
so much weirder.
But our characters are reintroduced. They're all living in like the Sierra Nevadas in seclusion in this cabin to protect the clone girl. But she's a 14-year-old who wants to live a life of freedom and constantly breaks the rules.
Yeah.
Therefore, she gets kidnapped by basically poachers who Biosyn is contracted to bring her to them so that they can experiment.
Yeah.
And study her.
And on a positive note, it's pretty cool to see dinosaurs in snow.
Yeah,
We've never
cool.
seen that before. I think that's the only positive thing so far in the movie.
Yeah. So then the locust thing happens.
Yeah.
And Laura Dern is introduced, and woof, man, she sucks. She is just so...
In this movie,
so bad. And then I'm also starting to get this kind of weird theory about middle-aged to like 50s and 60s women in movies where they're like, she just wears the weirdest outfits. And it's just, they're trying, I think, to make her look younger than she is. But they're just dumb. No woman that I know is wearing outfits like she is.
It's very weird outfits.
But I was thinking about this too during the movie. It's like, I mean, like whoever the costume designer is, they're trying, they're dressing the character to what the character would wear. But it is like, from what I know about this character, she's pretty down to earth.
Right.
So let's not just coat her in makeup and put her in like weird outfits.
I couldn't figure out that outfit where it was like, it was like, what is that called? Like a pea coat?
Yeah.
But then she had like a jumper under it or something.
She had like the highest waisted pants ever. And then like knockoff Chuck Taylors.
It was very weird.
It was a bad outfit.
But so in this scene, he does something and I was like, oh, this movie's going to be worse than I thought in its treatment of the legacy characters. Because Laura Dern shows up. She's wearing the same outfit she wore in Jurassic Park 1.
I don't have an issue with that.
I just think it's silly. I don't own an outfit that I had 20 years ago.
It's not the same outfit, Micah. It's not exactly the same. If you look up a picture, it is not the same outfit.
It's the same outfit.
Okay, we're fighting now. It's not the same outfit.
It's at least the same
They're
t-shirt.
Reintroducing a character that we have not seen in decades.
We know
Why
who
would
it
they
is.
not put her in a similar outfit, Micah?
I think it's very stupid.
Okay.
We can just disagree on that.
Fine.
And that's fine. But then they do something, and this is when I was like, uh-oh. But actually, the movie, I tracked with the movie longer than I thought I was going to, seeing that it had a 37 Metascore. And we know the critic scores aren't always the way to go.
Okay, let's
we
go.
Disagree. But she goes, what's that? And she stands up and she removes her glasses in the exact same way she does in Jurassic Park 1 when she first sees the dinosaur. And it's a very like weird, awkward way. And it was just like,
wow, you are getting in the weeds.
Kidding. I just thought it was so stupid to make a callback of a moment of her character seeing a dinosaur for the first time, which triggers in us, the audience, we're supposed to feel like the either wonder or dread that she feels in this moment. And it's the exact same way, and then it's just fields that locusts have destroyed. I just thought it was like, so that's the route we're going, where everything is going to be a callback to a previous movie, even though these are just normal people. Very stupid.
So she sees that the locusts are only eating crops that are not biosyn crops.
Yeah. And by the way, the locusts are like a foot long and they're huge.
And I didn't really understand biosyn other than just a world corporation, which I think is it's as simple as that.
Uh-huh.
Why would they have any business of growing crops?
Well, I mean, I think we would be surprised at how many.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think that's actually maybe the most realistic.
That's
part
a
of
good
it.
point. Yeah,
because we have these huge corporations that
own
everything.
Yeah,
so I think, and there's part of me that's like, why would they even want to destroy the food supply? And I'm like, well, actually, all the corporations in America are literally destroying the earth, so that's actually not unrealistic to me either.
Yeah,
that they would just be like, I don't care. Because they don't care.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
So she sees this is happening and is like, this is really bad. I have to call in a few favors for this. So then we're in Utah.
Like, I need to get Alan Grant for no reason.
Yeah, she goes to Utah where Alan Grant is still just a paleontologist, just digging up dead dinosaurs. I kind of like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's just still what he's doing, despite everything else that's going on. I thought the scene though was really weird. So they're doing a dig of a dinosaur, and he is speaking like it's a sermon, like he is a god.
Yeah,
like this is why we continue to do this. When there's like two girls off to the left side of the screen, just on their phones. Did you notice that?
I didn't notice that.
They looked bored out of their minds. Just on their phones.
Didn't notice that at all.
And it's like, are you trying to be like they don't really? They're just trying to get a college credit. They don't care. Because there's real dinosaurs now? Or was that a flop? Flop. Well, but whatever.
You're reminding me of another Colin quote that I read, where in the first Jurassic World movie, Bryce Dallas Howard says dinosaurs like bore people nowadays, or something like that. Like even dinosaurs are boring, so we had to like sex it up basically and make this super dinosaur. And he said, mind you, he wrote Jurassic World. He said, I wanted this movie to prove her wrong. So he's trying to prove himself wrong. I don't think he gets how to write
things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that reintroduction was very weird.
It was weirdly edited, weirdly paced. And I do wonder how much of this is like impeded by the fact that this is a COVID shoot.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a couple COVID shots that was making me laugh out loud.
Okay.
So Laura Dern comes and they meet each other again, and it's like he still obviously is in love with her. She's not with her husband anymore. They're catching up, blah, blah, blah. Then she starts telling him about the locust stuff, and the camera will cut back to him, and it is like the weirdest looking shot where he is. This happened a couple times, but this was the funniest, where the actor is perfectly centered. Which is, from my understanding, not good filmmaking necessarily. It's just not very interesting.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of examples of it being great.
Yes. But I hope you know what I'm trying to get at. But like it is a static, just a shot at him with Laura Dern not in the reacting
foreground or anything like that,
and he's just.
Or background, yeah.
Just during their conversation. And it's like, well, obviously this is a COVID shot. I get that.
Yeah.
You couldn't have shot it at an angle so it didn't look just flat unless the background's not there.
It's something that I thought was going to annoy me a lot. And actually it has, but I'm starting to enjoy watching stuff knowing that it's been in the pandemic and trying to see how they work around it.
Yeah, it is kind of fun.
Because a movie like Kimmy, which is all shot in the pandemic, no vaccine, stuff like that. Like, it's still bad. It was really interesting to see how they got around certain things on a set that you can tell is really small and all of that stuff. And then certain things like characters calling in on laptops. So it's like, oh, that's an interesting way. Like, this character was probably just shipped a microphone and a laptop and filmed it at their own house. Yeah, so there's stuff like that that's really interesting, and it's like, whoa, Steven Soderbergh's really smart at directing. And then there's stuff like this where I don't think Trevorrow's talented enough to like think his way out of these situations. He's probably just like, I don't know, just shoot it straight on, I guess, because we got to get that shot.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, he's probably maybe a nice guy.
We don't need to talk about his character.
Yeah, that's true.
He made a bad movie. He makes bad movies.
I just always feel bad when I start reaming people.
Yeah. Well, he should know better if he is given projects this big.
Yeah. Well,
there's a standard.
Yeah, there is. And I think it's kind of funny. I think it's this model that I guess kind of Marvel started, where like in phase 2 and 3, they would always hire directors that have done, maybe they've done a lot of movies, but they're usually like character-based and indie. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, Taika Waititi's doing Thor Ragnarok. Like, what? That's a huge jump.
But he still also did indie character-based things.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
So he does like an indie stuff that's successful, and then they're like, hey, you're jumping not like up 1 level, you're jumping up like 5 levels to like the top of filmmaking as far as budgets go.
Okay.
And like franchises and loves and stuff. And you know, they're doing that. They were doing that with all these things. You know, you don't necessarily have to have a ton of experience at this level. You can just jump up to this level.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of a Marvel formula that's pretty much paid off for them. But Jurassic World, they were like, hey, this guy's made 1 movie. Let's give him the keys to the kingdom. And then
Fallen Kingdom.
And then he gets the keys to the kingdom, makes a bad movie that's okay though, but kind of bad in hindsight. And then now he's like a producer. He has enough money, and now he's like, they called him to do Rise of Skywalker. He can do the last Jurassic World. Like, he can probably do whatever he wants now. And it's like, I think the guy needs to like be given like $20 million budgets and make like 3 movies each at $20 million and learn how to make good movies. And then you bring him back up. Or give him like a middle budget. Don't give him $200 million to make a movie because he doesn't know how.
Maybe he should just be a producer. Maybe he shouldn't be a director.
Well, he produced Fallen Kingdom.
He didn't direct it?
No.
Who directed that?
I think his name's J.A. Boyena.
Oh, okay. I thought he did all 3.
No, he didn't. So I don't think he's talented. So, I don't know that he should be working in this field.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, but I don't want to be mean about it. So it's like, maybe we can find something else for you to do.
Or maybe because this movie has like 37 different plots in it, maybe you should be making a TV show where you can explore 37 plots instead of shrinking it.
Be the guy that brings back Firefly, okay? Just do it.
Then we don't have to hear about it anymore.
That'll keep you busy for a long time.
Yeah. And Joss Whedon's certainly not going to be able to do that.
Yeah. So you know what? You've my permission as someone who's never seen the show and doesn't care about it. Do it. Just bring it back.
But yeah, so our two, Laura and Alan Grant, go to Biosyn, which is a nature reserve.
They've been invited by Ian Malcolm, who is Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
That's when we are introduced to Ramsey, who is kind of chauffeuring them around. Yeah. They do meet the eccentric Biosyn guy who is not in this movie. Like, he thinks he's in a different movie, but sorry, you're in this one.
Yeah.
And Jeff, so this part of the movie, I couldn't follow a single thing. Yes, I was not trying very hard, but I think if I had been, it would have just made me mad because it made no sense. And I had to go to the bathroom really bad. That's where I was at this part of the movie.
So Jeff Goldblum is basically talking, again, about like chaos theory, which he's been harping on since the first movie. That makes sense with his character, and he's like teaching a class, basically inevitability of the death of the human race.
I was pretty lost about that. So is this place a company?
Another very clear COVID shot, but that one was...
Of him teaching?
Yeah, that one, it was like, this is a cool location, and it's like this weird place...
I didn't really feel COVID shot to me, but I would believe it.
Yeah, I was like, that's a good use of a COVID shot.
But so this is a like Biosyn campus where the brightest and best come to work here.
Yeah.
But it's a school too.
Oh, didn't think about that.
I didn't really get what was going on for that.
Yeah, he's giving seminars.
But maybe he wasn't teaching a class. Maybe he was just giving a seminar. He's probably just a speaker.
Yeah, and all the classmates are looking at him very longingly.
I know that it showed like, I was just waiting for one of the girls to to close her eyes and it says "I love you" across her eyelids.
Well, there was actually a lot of like Indiana Jones references in this movie that I found very weird.
Yeah, there was. It was strange. Because later on when Sam Neill, Laura Dern's like, just leave the hat. And it's like, no, we're not watching that movie.
I know.
We're watching a different...
Well, and I was like, does he try to get his hat in Jurassic World or Jurassic Park? And I don't think he does.
No.
Maybe it falls off and he grabs it, but...
I don't know, man.
It's weird. And then later when they were in the plane flying above, it was just very... It was like he watched the scene in Temple of Doom when they're in the plane and was like, okay, replicate these shots exactly because it's Steven Spielberg.
I don't know.
It was very weird.
Uh-huh.
And, I got to say, I love you, Steven Spielberg, but shame on you for producing these Jurassic World movies.
Hey, he's making bank.
No, I'm just kidding. Not shame on you. You made West Side Story and some of the best movies ever made. You're all good. Just kidding. We love you. You're welcome on the podcast anytime. So... They meet, and Jeff Goldblum...
What the F are they talking about?
Well, Jeff Goldblum, while they're being made lattes, secretly tells them...
Not funny. The guy who's
funny.
making the lattes is just talking, and he's off screen, and he's still talking.
Yeah.
But it's like... I don't know. It's not funny. It's not funny.
This is one of those things. It's like quinoa in movies.
Yeah.
This is a quinoa joke. But even later. So in movies, I feel like in like 2008, quinoa starts being a thing. And in movies, they start being like, quinoa? You want to eat? Quinoa and stuff like that. And then now it's like, if you put a quinoa joke in a movie, that's pretty tacky. But I feel like in the 90s or maybe early 2000s, it would be funny to be like, a soy whatchamacallit latte cappuccino what? But now it's like, we all know what a cappuccino and a macchiato is, and we know about alternative milks. It's not a funny joke anymore. It's been made millions of times.
Yeah.
Stop making it.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. Anyway, Goldblum hands them like this bracelet so they can get access to the samples.
But like, what does he say? I can't even understand the words he's saying to her.
Well, he's like, you gotta go get the samples.
In one breath, he's saying the things that I don't understand what's happening, and then in the same breath, he says, "I love your jacket."
Well, that's because
I know he's covering up. I know what he was doing.
Come on,
no, I know that, but I just couldn't track any of it.
Yeah, and
Sam Neill like doesn't know anything that's going on.
No, I don't know why he's in the movie.
I don't know why he's in the movie either. Good for him for getting a paycheck.
Nothing. He does nothing. And by the way, Sam Neill. I love Sam Neill. He is great. Watch Hunt for the Wilder People. The guy rules. I love him. Jurassic Park, amazing. It's like he is drinking NyQuil in between takes in this movie.
I know, he's very tired.
Because he is about to fall asleep in every take. I know on social media and stuff, he's been excited about this movie. He could not have... He could not have been less excited if he tried.
Maybe he didn't know that he was in a Jurassic Park movie. Like maybe he showed up on set and he sees Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum and it's like, oh, this is kind of funny, guys, isn't it? We're like all in a movie together again. But there aren't actually any dinosaurs around him. He just didn't know what he was in. But also the directing is so bad. Why would you bring all three of these characters back in and not brief the main character? Why would you not brief the main character of the first movie? He is like the protagonist.
Yeah.
I know Ellie is and I is as well. Like they're both like it, but it is like we're following his perspective though.
Yeah.
Why are you keeping him in the dark?
It doesn't make any sense.
For like so long too, keeping him in the dark.
And by the way, I think because we are consistently talking about great actors and the great actors that we know we've seen do great roles, and then actors who've done bad roles who are bad in this movie. Everyone is bad in this movie except for two characters at all. And so I think that speaks to the directing. I don't think that's an actor problem.
It's 100% the directing.
It's the directing.
And the script.
Because
that he wrote.
I do think that the right-hand man, I forgot his name
Ramsey.
again. I think he's good in this movie.
He is too. Besides the things that we had mentioned, which is definitely a directing issue.
But I think that huge MVP is the woman who flies the plane. She's incredible in this movie.
Yeah. Her name's Kayla Watts, I think, the character.
Yeah, she's so good. It took me a second to understand what she was doing, but once I got it and was on track with her,
well,
best performance in the movie.
I'll tell you why it took you a minute.
Why?
So to get to that part of the movie, we're in Malta, and the clone girl is given to the bad guys, and they're taking her away. She's the pilot, so now she's just hanging in Malta waiting for her next contract mission. She gets like $50,000 for this job. Good for her.
Yeah.
But now there's like this weird underbelly of dinosaurs being eaten, dinosaur fights, dinosaurs being sold. It's like, yeah, of course, I guess this is gonna happen. Whatever, who cares?
There was a little part of me in that scene where I was like, you're telling me we're just gonna glance at an underbelly where there are dino fights, and that's not the movie?
Yeah, I know.
Because there were a ton of animatronics in that sequence. That was cool.
But our main characters reach Malta, don't remember how or why, but they meet with the guy from the Pikachu movie, and he tells them where to go.
And we glanced Lauren Lapkus in the files, and we were like, ooh, is she gonna be in this? No, she's not.
But
Sorry,
yeah,
Lauren.
so they go to Malta. So Kayla Watts goes to is in the bathroom washing her hands, and Bryce Dallas Howard is there. And this is like how we're introduced.
Yeah.
And so she says something, and Bryce Dallas Howard is like, "You're American," and she's like, "Don't get caught up in this world. You're too naive. Get out of here." And she's like,
yeah, I'm like, huh?
All she said was, "You're American."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "No, wait, actually," like basically like trying to like, "I have a question." And she's like, "No, really, this place is going to chew you up and swallow you and poop you out. You really got to get out of this underbelly of this world. Bye." And then she leaves, and it's like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
Unprompted. And then Bryce Dallas Howard has to chase her down and be like, shows her a picture like, have you seen this girl? This is my daughter. Help me.
And then she's like,
can't get involved.
I might be able to help you out.
Yeah,
that's why it was weird. I forgot about
Very
that scene
strange.
because after that scene, I was on board with her the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And she was so good.
Yeah.
Welcome on the podcast anytime.
I am tired of this too in movies, like blockbuster stuff. And I think I was more annoyed by it in this movie because it's not a spy movie. I don't care what kind of movie he's trying to make. It should never be a spy movie. I am tired of people putting things in their ears to talk to other people. It is just so annoying at this point. I know, like, for some movies, like Marvel, Mission Impossible, there are spies, there's intrigue. I get it. I'm fine with it. But I just feel like we are taking for granted that people are putting Bluetooth speakers in their ears to talk to people across the city. I'm sick and tired of it. It just feels like we're cheating.
Well, what did you think of, there's this woman that shows up. She's wearing all white.
Oh my gosh, she was terrible.
She was in a different movie.
She was in
again.
Yeah,
she was in the same movie that the billionaire CEO was in.
Yeah.
Because she just shows up and she's like, "You got to get the raptors over in here," yada yada yada. And then she just kind of isn't in the movie anymore.
No.
But they were they were clearly trying to do like a White Widow Mission Impossible thing.
Yes.
And I was just like, huh? What is she doing in this movie? Because she just points a laser at people so that the raptors will chase them with their scent. It was... I had no bearing of what she was supposed to be.
Absolutely not.
And her, like, just the way... Like, the outfits they gave her were, again, like the costume
the
designer.
Outfit, but yeah.
It was just very strange.
Yeah, it was bad.
And she just had this aura of, it was just like, what
they
movie
dressed
are you
her,
in?
They dressed her to look like a character that was more important than she actually was.
Maybe that's it,
because she looks different from everyone else based on what she's wearing. So it's like, okay, pay attention. She's like calling the shots on this bad guy thing that's going to last 10 minutes in this movie.
You know what it felt like? You know when you're watching a Marvel movie, and for me, like a character I don't know that well, and then a character comes in, and they seem like they have a lot of gravitas, and then they're just not in the movie anymore. And it's like, oh, that must be an important character in the comics
books. Yeah.
that I just don't know. That's what it felt like, but it's
Yeah.
like, this isn't pre-existing material.
No.
Why are you bringing this in?
But she's got dinosaurs that are like trained to kill if she points a laser at somebody.
Yeah.
So then dinosaurs get out and they're chasing. I thought this part was pretty good
And you know why it was good?
because it was a Bourne Ultimatum ripoff.
Yeah, and guess what else?
What?
A lot of the motorcycle shots were exactly the same as, I believe, the Bourne Ultimatum as well.
Well, okay. Yeah, they're pretty good.
It was again nuts where I haven't seen that movie in probably a decade, and I was like, oh, I'm watching the Bourne Ultimatum right now.
That is, I mean,
I think you could side by side
plagiarism or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, when I read that quote, I was like, okay, so I wasn't imagining it. Like,
yeah,
he's sitting there probably like storyboarding the same thing.
Yeah.
But it was fun to see dinosaurs running around in Malta, like eating people and stuff.
Yeah, no, I liked that part because it was a dinosaur part. Like, finally, it was a dinosaur part. So that sequence worked for me. I felt like the Bryce part, her running through the city into apartments and stuff, it was pretty frantic.
Yeah.
I felt like that was good.
I mean, Paul Greengrass did a great job directing those scenes 15 years ago.
He did. Yeah. And then she gets into a truck with Kayla Watts, and they go to her plane, and they're going to take off. But Chris Pratt barely gets into the plane in time. We all know he's getting in the plane.
Yeah.
There is a fine line between, like, because it bugs me when people are like, I knew that person was going to die, or I knew that person was going to be okay. And it's like, we know that our main characters are not going to die. Everyone knows that going into it. There's nothing to guess or be surprised about. And that's so okay. That's great.
Yeah.
But there was an era of this movie where it's like, but no one's going to die. You reintroduced that scientist way late in the movie. That guy should be dead. He should have been a part of the crew way earlier so that he could die. And then they can, like, carry on what he was trying to do with that one lady.
I think ideologically, one of the things that this movie is suffering from, and the whole Jurassic World series of Jurassic Park, is Colin is trying so hard to, like, honor Jurassic Park that none of it really makes sense. So he's spending all this time thinking, when I grew up, I liked the character Henry, I think his name's Henry Wu.
Yeah.
Played by B.D. Wong.
Yeah.
And he's like, I liked that character. So to him, he's like, we need to appease the fan base and make sure that he has a story arc in this. When it's like, no, this is not. I know that it now has, like, a huge fan base, and it is, unfortunately, like, Comic-Conized, like Comic-Con-ized. But this series should have never been that.
Yeah.
And it should have never been like, oh, well, we can't just let Captain America die. He has to have a certain type of death. Because it's like, this isn't Marvel. These are supposed to be real characters, not larger-than-life characters. Mm-hmm. So B.D. Wong's character, I don't care that he has, like, he finds redemption at the end of this.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think he should have been in Jurassic World either.
Yeah, right.
Because he's not good in that movie. So
yeah,
it's very weird. So there's all this, like, I want to honor it and make all these references and stuff, but none of that should be in a Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah, no.
You shouldn't treat it like Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And even Star Wars, let's
stop trying to be like Star Wars, because Star Wars can't even be like Star Wars anymore.
Right. Yeah. Just wait till you hear our last Jedi episode, folks. It is one for the books. And it might be surprised what you find. But I do think this series made me. I actually had Luke Skywalker's quote in my head when Rey's talking to him, and he says, "It's time for the Jedi to end." And I thought to myself, like, it's time for Jurassic Park to end. Mm-hmm. It's like the legacy. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna do something new. Mm-hmm. You know what, folks? Here's a tip for you. If you're about to start writing something in a universe that already exists, give me something new. Mm-hmm. I'm tired of having to go back and fill in gaps in universes that I like. Give me a new story, please.
Yep.
Please.
Yep. So you mean just new altogether, like a new property?
Oh, I mean, I would love that.
Yeah.
And don't talk to me about Free Guy. I'm not interested in watching Free Guy. I would love a new property. Maron, give it to me.
Because I would say Marvel is, the phase of Marvel right now is giving you that.
Well, it's funny because I think Marvel has created a lot of these issues. Uh-huh. But like a lot of, things like The Dark Knight, great movie, created a lot of issues for other movies that try and copy it. But that doesn't change the fact that The Dark Knight's great. I think Marvel is in that boat where they're like, now they're in the zone where they're like, we're going to give you all of these new characters. And to me, I'm like, cool. I don't know anything about Shang-Chi. That was a cool movie. And yeah, they're kind of doing it.
Yeah, they are. Good job, guys.
Good job on
Kevin.
them. Yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to talk about him. Yeah. So they get to the nature preserve. They're attacked by these flying dinosaurs. Pretty fun. Bryce Dallas Howard ejects out, has that cool shot you discussed.
Hanging from a tree. This dinosaur that shows up is probably my favorite one in the movie.
It was cool.
It's scary looking. It's like Tim Burton made this dinosaur.
And it has huge claws that it slashes stuff with.
Is it blind?
I think its eyes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's no, its eyes are blind. For some reason, I corrected you on that.
And
its soul is.
I thought it was funny though. So like, she gets out of the seat. She's crawling on the ground, trying to get away from it slowly. The sound editing, it's like crunch, 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 crunch. Yeah. It's so loud. That cracked me up.
Yeah. But she does get into the water and it's sniffing and it has feathers on it, which is cool. I thought the feather stuff was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that part was good.
Yeah, the Kayla Watts and Chris Pratt
crash into a frozen lake.
Yes.
And another feather dinosaur attacks them, and that one was cool. And the moment where they're like, okay, I think we're going to get away from it as the ice is breaking, and then it jumps into the water, I was like, oh no!
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And then...
but they get away.
They get away. Of course they get away. I knew they were going to get away. But yeah, that part was fun. And then Laura Dern and Sam Neill put on like hazmat suits and KN95s, and they go into the locust room
to collect a sample of the locust.
Yeah.
Because she's going to like leak this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like study it or something.
No, because at the end of the movie, she's like, I'm going to give this to my Times contact.
Right. When the conflict's all resolved.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter anymore. So they're collecting a sample, but then they're disturbed by something, like a loud noise. And the locusts are swarming, and they barely make it out, I guess.
And then we find out that Maisie...
It's also just like, because Sam Neill had nothing to do. He was completely in the dark on what was happening, just along for the ride. They're in the locust thing, and she's like, okay, get it. And he's like, get what?
I know.
And she's like, just get the locust out. And he's like, okay. And it's like, are you the biggest idiot ever? You want this woman so bad, you're just gonna like do all this stuff?
It was weird.
It just didn't make sense character-wise. It was weird.
No.
And I know he knows this woman.
And there are some cool animatronic locusts, I gotta say. Those are cool. There's this point where we find out that clone Maisie is actually...
She was birthed and has a mother.
But she's an exact genetic replica of her mother.
Yes.
But then her mother had a genetic disease, and she was able to fix it with her, which is how they're going to fix the locust. But what
I don't get about that is the locusts don't have a genetic disease. And I think it was just like, because of what she has achieved through DNA, we can do other things with DNA now, which is what we're going to do with the locusts.
Yeah, and they kept talking about how, like, if they can study the clone and study Blue's baby, they'll be able to, like, cure diseases. And I'm like, whatever.
Which it's pretty confusing because, so, the clone girl is technically a clone because she is her mother. And her mother was able to reproduce without mating. Same with Blue, was able to reproduce without mating. Also learned a fun fact that I forgot to double check, that monitors don't have to mate.
Monitor lizards?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I gotta look that one up because that's crazy.
But it was very weird to, like, it was weird to go, okay, this is a clone, and the whole time I'm thinking, like, she was birthed in a lab, but they're like, no, it's not that weird. She was actually grown inside of her mother and came out of the same person, and you're the same person.
Wouldn't this have kind of made more sense for a movie where, like, let's just pretend that well, whatever. So
what if you birthed yourself?
Gross. I have seen a movie where they've done that 5 times in a row. But,
Yeah, I guess we did. And that's
speaking
when
of men, but wouldn't it have like been more interesting if like her mom has this genetic defect that she is able to fix in her clone self. And let's just say like the premise of the movie is, yes, there are dinosaurs. They're all dying. Because remember, they were like, there's like frog DNA in them. They're not perfect replicas of dinosaurs. And now that they're in this like time period where like there's diseases that are here that they did never experience. So they're all dying.
Yeah.
Or all getting really sick, which means they're just going to go extinct again. And some scientists are like, we want to prevent that from happening because we can, because we're God. That's why we need her to study her to fix their DNA. Wouldn't that at least be more interesting than this
Locust thing? It makes more sense, yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, to reiterate, this is a dinosaur movie that's about locusts, was the decision they made. Again, I just want to never forget. But what it's also making me think, what you said made me think, because, again, they're not taking advantage of the fact that the dinosaurs are out. If you want to do this whole thing about food, maybe, why don't you make it about the dinosaurs and say, hey, the dinosaurs got out, and now the food chain has been disrupted. And now it's about the dinosaurs.
Yep.
That would be...
I think that's number one with a bullet, the simplest story.
Yeah. It's just the weirdest decision you could have made.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's really enough said, if you know what I mean.
I mean, imagine if a Spider-Man movie was just like, all right, there's no spiders that exist in this world, or something like that. I don't know. That was a bad example. I couldn't think of anything fast enough. I guess what if Star Wars was like the holiday special, and they don't do anything fun Star Wars? That was another bad example.
Let's just keep moving
I can't think of an example because it's so stupid.
Well, let's just let the movie be its own example.
Yeah. Oh, we will be referencing this for years to come on this podcast as a classic. They shouldn't have done it.
Yep.
So there is this scene where they get in this tunnel, and there are those cool dinosaurs that look kind of like alligators and have like fans on their back.
They look like giant lizards more to me.
Yeah. Yes.
Like a monitor lizard.
And I think they were all animatronic. And that scene, I was like, hummity, gimme.
Yeah, it looked really
Mimi
good.
likey. Those were cool.
And then, but they're like trying to get out, but there's this gate, and Jeff Goldblum meets him on the other side and is trying to think of a code. And he's just doing his Jeff Goldblum thing. There's no urgency to him.
Yeah.
And everyone else is like, it's a little like borderline traumatic of like, help us, get us
about to be
out.
eaten.
We're about to be eaten. And it's like, ew.
And he's trying to guess the code, and he's like, let me try Miles Davis's birthday.
I know.
What?
And then meanwhile, Ramsey, who has been like double crossing the whole time and is like actually a good guy, I guess, it's just sauntering in the computer area, and he's like, do. He sees everyone being distressed on the security footage. Oh, well, here's the code.
Type.
Gate opens, and they're fine.
And there, I would think like if you're gonna, just on like a comedic structure, it's weird for Jeff Goldblum to be like, no, it's not Miles Davis's birthday. It's not my birthday. Why would he not, like, why wouldn't they do an easy joke there where the guy opens the gate, and then we cut back to Jeff Goldblum. He thinks he opened the gate, and he says something like, oh, it was Sinatra's birthday.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like, it was just so weird that, like, you'd put that in there. Spend time on him doing that.
That character's not an idiot. Why is he putting in Miles Davis's birthday?
I don't know. I think they told him to improvise or something, and he's a jazz pianist, and he's like, Miles Davis.
100%. Like, I have said this recently to Micah. Jeff Goldblum is not directed. He is just put in front of the camera, and they say action.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
He is never bad. But this movie doesn't make sense, a lot of it. But also, all of it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So then is this when they all, like, get together?
Pretty much. And they're trying to get into this, like, little station.
Yeah.
And that big dinosaur comes and...
Giganotosaurus or something like that.
Yeah. What was kind of cool about the design, is when that dinosaur and the T-Rex are fighting.
Yeah.
They both look very different.
Yeah.
Like, I think they even said that this big dinosaur has a lot of, like, monitor lizard in him. Like, similar.
Oh, did they? Okay.
They might have. I think I'm just obsessed with monitor lizards now.
Seriously.
But he looks more...
You won't shut up about them.
He looks more lizard-like.
You changed all our computer
dinosaur.
desktops to monitor lizards last night.
They're cool and scary.
I actually don't remember what they look like.
Yeah, let's do a quick Google
let's
search.
go, and I don't want to cut anything, so I am typing in monitor lizard, and I'm looking at it. I hope you are playing along. Oh, yeah, they're scary. They're scary. Oh,
Yeah,
but they're
so
very cool. They are very dinosaur-like.
Let's see what's going on in the news world of monitor lizards.
Just hit us with the top headline.
Flooding in Bangkok district blamed on monitor lizard.
Okay. Now back to Jurassic World. So they kind of attempt to sort of recreate the car
Yeah.
in Jurassic Park 1. But they spend like a minute and a half on it, maybe?
Yeah.
And again, no tension. And they're recreating shots from the first movie, which
I kind of like this scene though, but I think it's just because there was a giant dinosaur. At this point, it's breathing fire because the locusts have been.
So
Yeah.
the CEO, I literally stamping my feet because this was when I was like, this is so funny. The scientist is like, the CEO scientist goes, we can't kill the locusts, and everyone's like, we got to get rid of these locusts. We just have to. All of his staff, and then he's like, no. And then he walks down there and he's like, okay. And then he burns all of the locusts.
But they escape.
They escape.
And now they're a literal flaming ball of fire,
Flying through the
setting
sky.
the entire dinosaur forest on fire.
And the big Giganotosaurus like bites one out of the air, which then allows him to breathe
No,
fire
that's
like
not
a
how
dragon.
it happens. That's not how it happens. Jeff Goldblum gets a locust on a spike and throws it into the throat of the dinosaur, and that's how it does it, which is cool.
Well, and that was another thing. When that scene started and they separated and Jeff Goldblum was out there, I was like, this is so stupid. They're going to recreate how he pulled out the flare in the first one to distract them and goes, hey, over
I forgot
here,
about that. But
over
yeah.
here. And I'm like, why can't you do anything that's remotely unique?
I don't know.
No, you have to just recreate the first movie. So he does that, but this time it's unique because he throws it in his mouth and he's like empowered, I guess, is how it feels like they're trying to be like, he's not helpless now. But it breathes fire. So then it kind of erases any mistakes I've had with the movie because I'm like, okay, cool, breathing fire. And then they get up to the top and...
The dinosaur's still trying to get them.
Yeah. And Jeff Goldblum has some shirts unbuttoned because...
But shirt's unbuttoned? His shirt is unbuttoned.
Unbuttoned a little bit. Now, famously, whether you agree or not, Jeff Goldblum is a bit of a sex icon because of his look in Jurassic Park, where his shirt is undone and he has an injured leg. There's a statue of him somewhere in America as that. That's like...
What? Where?
I
now
don't
I'm looking
remember.
that up.
But it's like a big statue of him shirtless like that. And it is this thing that people look at as like a sex icon moment in pop culture. Are you looking it up now?
London?
London, not in America.
What? That's a big statue. Have you seen it?
I've seen it, yes. It's big.
It's huge.
How big is it? Do you see how big it is?
Look at these people standing next to it. Hold on. Whoops. Look at that.
Oh yeah, way bigger than I remember it being. That thing is like probably 25 feet tall and like 50 feet long because it's on its side.
Weird.
So that's, so there's a moment where I think he looks at Chris Pratt.
No, Kayla Watts.
Yes, and she looks at his shirt and she shakes her head and then he buttons up his shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, really? You're going to make that joke? And then they're talking about what they're going to do. And they mentioned something about the Jurassic World park. And Bryce Dallas Howard's like, oh, we need to, change the stuff just like we did in Jurassic World. And he stopped short of staring down the barrel of the camera. Jeff Goldblum. And he says, I hated Jurassic World.
Yeah.
And it was like Colin was like, I hear you guys. Some of you didn't like this movie, but you're having fun now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Really bad. And so they go, Laura Dern and Bryce Dallas Howard go to switch out the power because for some reason, again, they're like, remember how Laura Dern in Jurassic Park changed the power grid? We have to do that again. Someone mentioned something about the voltage with dinosaurs, and Alan Grant's like, yeah, I know how much voltage it is, because they have to point out that he was electrocuted in the first movie. They just can't resist it. So all of that's bad. Then they get to, well, the scientist gets killed by the things that kill Wayne Knight. That was kind of fun, because I like those dinosaurs. And then finally, we get to the huge showdown. Now, again, this speaks to the fan Comic-Con nature that these movies have become for no apparent reason. Trevorrow, before the movie even came out, said, don't worry, guys, the T-Rex doesn't die. I would never do that, because we can't kill the T-Rex. That's like an icon of Jurassic Park. And I just think that's so weird to go into a movie with like that as your mantra, but you also like have to have the dinosaur in the movie.
There's also a spy movie.
It's very weird. I honestly, if you have an interest in seeing it, you should see it, because it's weird. And I'm glad I watched this movie. I know we're harping on how bad it is, and it's, oh, baby, it's bad. But it is kind of like, wow. I think this will be a touchstone moment, because I do think this movie's going to make enough money, but it's not going to make quite as much as Universal hopes. And I think people will look at this, and they'll be like, there was the Top Gun and Jurassic World at the same time. One of them's a huge hit, and we should make more movies like that. And the other one, we should not make more movies like. I think it's a watershed moment. But the T-Rex and the Giganotosaurus.
Did you mention that we see the logo of Jurassic?
I was about to say. Go ahead. You say.
No, it's okay.
There's a waterfall that goes around the circle. The T-Rex walks behind it and recreates the Jurassic Park logo. And that is the dumbest thing that's been put on the screens in the year 2022.
Pretty bad.
Yeah. And this is the same year as Secrets of Dumbledore, so I'm saying that's pretty bad. But Secrets of Dumbledore is a lot worse than this.
Taking out the trash this year in Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are the only, well, that and The Bubble. Those are the only 3 movies I've seen this year that I didn't like. So.
They fight. T-Rex gets what we think is dead, defeated, after what you just said, but it seems to be dead.
Well, you can never kill the T-Rex, I guess.
And people are trying to, everyone gets in the helicopter, and then the cool Tim Burton dinosaur shows up and starts fighting the other dinosaur, and then the T-Rex wakes back up and takes down the dinosaur with the Tim Burton one.
And they team up and do like a maneuver to push the other one into the claws.
Kind of graphic. It's pretty gross.
I was like, oh, that's fun. Don't think about it, though, Micah. Don't think about it. But that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then they fly away in a helicopter, and they're like, we did it.
And then it cuts to, like, they're all safe on a tarmac somewhere nearby. It's the next day. And the camera's panning as actors are talking to just extras. And it's like, and then this thing happened? And it was so crazy. Yeah. Oh, and then let me tell you about this part. Huh? Oh, it was so weird. And then Laura Dern said she's going to take her sample to the Times, even though it literally doesn't matter anymore, that she got her...
Well, I mean, she does have the scoop.
She has the scoop, whatever. And then the clone is reunited with her parents, her adoptive parents.
Oh, I was like, huh?
No, with Chris Pratt and Bryce. And happy family. And then we get back to the news thing.
Well, BD Wong goes out and he lets the locust out. And when he lets it out, he like puts his hand in the air in this way
He's
that
like,
it was just
I
like...
did it!
Yeah. Also, he has like the worst wig in the world on in that movie.
He looks pretty youthful still, but he's got to be in his 50s.
Yeah.
But he looks pretty good, and the hair just looks like it's for an older person.
Yeah. He's got to be past his 50s, right? I mean, that movie came out in 93.
He's aging well, but his hair is weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's got to be a wig, right, for this movie? Or is it just like really fluffy? I guess it could be really fluffy. It looked like it was on top of other hair.
Sure. Okay, fine.
Very weird. And then the whole movie is like the news reporter blogger person was like, yeah, that thesis of the movie of Jurassic Park 1 is not true. We can learn to coexist and it's fine.
And then it does show some pretty cool, like, Nat Geo
That
shots
part was cool.
of dinosaurs.
Honestly, if they would have just done this budget and just made like a fake thing that
David Attenborough.
that was narrated by David Attenborough, I'd be like, this is the best movie of the year. I mean, I did read that Colin did watch a lot of nature stuff to prepare for this, which that's evident. That's the only thing that he said that I've read where I'm like, that makes sense and was a good decision you made.
Bad movie, though.
Really bad movie. I mean, so to me, to wrap it up here, first of all, go to patreon.com/Micah McCaw. There's a link in the description, and you can get our extra episodes and watch our watch along to the Star Wars Holiday Special as little as $3 a month. Once we get to 50 patrons, we're going to cover every single Pixar movie on an extra show on Patreon. We got to get 13 more. Can you please get us there this year? Mm-hmm. I really want to launch that show this year. That's like one of my big goals. But and then please rate and review our podcast. Mm-hmm. We've been sitting steady at our ratings, but let's pump it up a few. If you haven't, if you listen and haven't rated, even if you just want to click the 5 stars and not write a review, that's fine. But please do it. Now, as far as ranking this in the Jurassic series, I think this series is, oddly enough, one of the rare series where every single sequel is slightly worse than the previous movie. That's my take on it. But what's unique about this one is I would rather watch Dominion over Fallen Kingdom like any day of the week. Mm-hmm. Maybe even over Jurassic World.
I think I would too.
But I think
it's a worse movie.
It's way worse of a movie. Mm-hmm. So that's my take on it.
The dinosaur stuff's just better.
Yeah.
That's why. It comes down to the dinosaur stuff.
Except for there's no tension. It's just fun to look at them.
Yeah.
It's not photographed well or not edited well, really.
Yeah, it's photographed well. Yeah. They look good.
But where would you put it in yours?
I think I would put it like third to bottom.
So you put it above those?
I put it above those other two. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also can't really remember the other ones, and I don't even want to think about them again. I'm just so done with this franchise. And it's like, whenever we have kids, you just get so excited showing your kids like movies that made cinema, you know? And it's like, yes, I will show them Jurassic Park. They can do the other stuff if they want.
Oh yeah, that's up to them.
Yeah. I never want to watch another one of these movies again, besides the first one.
Yeah, it's crazy. Mm-hmm. It is truly a wild series, wild movie. And next week, we will be covering the 5th of the Toy Story universe, and that is Lightyear. And then the week after that, we return to Revenge of the Sith. So join us next week for Lightyear. I'm hoping it's going to be good, because they haven't missed yet on Toy Story, but
one seems like a weird choice.
But again, hopefully it's in a child's imagination, and then it'll work, and we'll all be crying at the end.
Just very few colors in this movie is what is making me nervous.
Colors?
In the trailers, it's just a very simple palette.
Oh.
But I think that they're gonna pack a lot in, because they usually do.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's just like a rock planet, and their suits are all like the same color.
Oh,
and then you have a pop of orange with that cat.
Yeah.
But I think there will be a lot more.
I didn't notice that. But the animation, at the end of the day, the animation looks insane.
As it always does.
Yeah. So,
also, we saw the trailer for the new Minions movie, and it looks funny.
It does look really funny.
If anything, write a review about our podcast that is actually a review of that trailer that looked funny. Just do it.
I was giggling.
Yeah, it was a good trailer.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Adios.